Hey guys, I just wanted to take a minute of your time and talk about some of our American public history, specifically during the Revolution. Now, the place that I bring up is the Maryland State House. Maryland, kind of as a whole, didn't play a huge part during the war, but the State House is actually where the Treaty of Paris was signed, that ended the Revolutionary War, and also established and acknowledged the United States, the colonies, independence from Britain. So there are a couple websites that give plenty of information on this, but the big one is dls.maryland.gov, and that actually stands for Department of Legislative Services. A link can be found to here through a brochure found on a different site. This is msa.maryland.gov, standing for Maryland State Archives. And between these two, you're going to see a brochure that has a ton of information on the Maryland State House's prominence in our nation's history, as well as a huge section dedicated to the Treaty of Paris, different times George Washington was in there, and its role for ending the Revolutionary War. Now, on the site, on dls.maryland.gov, there is a virtual tour link that you can take, and if you can't travel in person to the Maryland State House, you can always go online and see the different rooms, see where the treaty was signed, and get some more information that way. But if you were to visit the Maryland State House, it is located in Annapolis, and Annapolis is essentially in kind of the center of Maryland. You're driving most the same distance from any corner of it. It's right on the Chesapeake. And at the time of the Revolutionary War, it was actually the state capital. I'm sorry, it was the nation's capital. Now it's just simply Maryland State Capital. We all know the nation's capital has moved. Not too far away though, but it was a pretty big deal during that time. Now, the State House itself was built a couple different times. What you see today is the closest to what it was during the signing of the treaty. At that point, they had been building it for the third time. There was a bunch of delays because of the war. There was delays because there was a hurricane during that time. And they found out they had a leaky roof, which was what was being worked on when the treaty itself was in process. In the signing of that. Now, since then, things have been a little updated, a little trimming here and there have been added amenities like electricity, but for the most part, if you go, you are stepping into the same room that these events happened in, which is very cool for children if they go to visit. There is options for group tours and for educational tours that are offered through the website, the msa.maryland.gov. And you can reserve a spot. You have to reserve in order to be able to visit because it does get booked pretty quick. You can't just do a walk-in. Though you can go to the grounds and walk around the grounds and see statues and plaques that commemorate people through our nation's history in general. Now, in the State House itself, there are statues, there are historical objects, artifacts, and there are paintings. Now, some of these paintings were painted during that time, and they give you a sense of what it was like for the people living then. But there is also paintings done by more modern artists and just other people since then that show scenes and show historical figures from during the Revolutionary War, which gives an extra bit of depth to when you're walking around and you're kind of soaking in all that history. As a teacher myself, I would recommend the students going there for field trips because they will provide you information. They will provide you packets and pamphlets and brochures and that list all this information. But there's nothing quite like standing in a place that you know was there hundreds of years ago, and you know all these important men, George Washington, sat in this room as you're like maybe even in the same seat you were in. For students, for kids, that's magical. So I do highly recommend that. I want to thank you for your time in watching this, and I hope that you are a little bit more inspired to check out some history in Maryland, some history of the Revolutionary War. Thank you.